broad consensus.
Mixed reactions from public universities following UTAG strike.
And first in a series of Russia-Ukraine de-escalation talks and inconclusive.
This is news coming to you live on GBC News and GTV. Hello, good evening. I'm Suyoko Kwaku.
Good evening, my man. President Akufo-Addo says the economic growth rate recorded under his watch, even during the COVID-19 pandemic of 5.6%, was far better than what he inherited from the Mahama administration, which was at 3.4% in 2016.
Addressing the National Labour Conference at Kurunketia in the Eastern Region, President Akufo-Addo said his government has taken proactive steps not only to put the economy on the trajectory of growth, but also create jobs via Obatampa Cares program with 100 billion cedis. This story, Shirley, this information that we have in the first batch of Ghanaian students
in Ukraine
arriving
tomorrow
in the country at 7 a.m. I think this is a big relief because
it's
we've
good
all
news.
been praying for their safety. Yesterday, on Talking Point, the president of the Ghanaian Union of
Students in Ukraine
in Ukraine disclosed that he had reports from some of the students who were fleeing the war-stricken country that they were being discriminated at some borders, neighboring countries, and it was a big worry for them. So this kind of news that we have is welcome.
I think it's same for most students from African countries, because we also had the same of Nigerian students who were trying to flee through the Poland border being refused, so they had to go back to Ukraine. So I think it's basically good news for Ghanaians having the first batch return home. It's good news for parents, good news for all of us, and we hope the second batch arrives soon.
And as the president also said, the student union president also said, they have making arrangements to get these students psychotherapists and counselors, so that they will see to their mental well-being when they arrive in the country. And I think it's also welcoming news because they really need it,
It's a step in the right direction.
Experiencing such thing, I can't just imagine myself in that situation. So we pray for their safe arrival in the country, and we also thank the ministry and other agencies for facilitating their safe return to the country. Well, the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, says government is implementing policy to cut down budgetary allocation to ministries, departments and other government agencies by 20% this year in a bid to ensure fiscal consolidation.
The president disclosed this when he addressed the maiden edition of the National Labour Conference at Kurunketia in the East Region.
We have to make concerted efforts as partners to hasten our recovery from COVID-19 by finding intelligent ways of bringing everyone on board to contribute their quota, no matter how small. Government, on its part, is implementing a policy of cutting the budgets of ministries, departments, and agencies by 20% this year as its contribution to measures to ensure fiscal consolidation. Ghana's tax to GDP ratio of 12.2% compares unfavorably with our peers the world over. The average tax to GDP ratio in West Africa stands at 18%, and indeed, the recommended ratio for ECOWAS member states is a minimum of 20%. The average for OECD countries is 34%. It is thus no wonder that American, German, French, Chinese, British peoples, amongst others, can readily find the means to fund their own development particularly their infrastructural development, whereas we are constantly struggling to do the same.
A solemn ceremony on Monday morning was held at the Christianborg Crossroads at Osu in Accra to remember the three fallen ex-servicemen, Sergeant Cornelius Francis Ajete, Corporal Patrick Atipo, and Private Odate Lamte. 74 years ago, their gunning down sparked riots across the country, culminating into Ghana's independence.
74 years ago, on Saturday, 28 February 1948, Ghana was rocked by riots following the killing of three Ghanaian World War II veterans, Sergeant Ajete, Corporal Atipo, and Private Odate Lamte. They were shot by British colonial police during a protest march in Accra. The three were among the war veterans who were marching peacefully to present a petition to the British governor. They wanted the compensation and gratuity promised them for their war service in World War II to be redeemed. The shooting incident became a milestone in Ghana's struggle for independence as it sparked several riots in Accra and across the country. At a solemn memorial at the Nationalism Park at Christiansborg Crossroads at Osu in Accra, the three fallen soldiers were remembered.
GC 37209, Private Odate Lamte. GC 37609, Private Odate Lamte. It has pleased the Almighty God to take the souls of our beloved comrades, Sergeant C.F. Ajete, Corporal Atipo, and Private Odate Lamte out of our midst to heaven above. May the souls of all our departed veterans rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Then was the sounding of the last post. And to the reveille. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, laid the first wreath on behalf of the people of Ghana. Next, the Chief of Defense Staff laid one for the security services, and the National Chair of the Veterans Association of Ghana laid a wreath on behalf of the veterans. The Gbese Manche laid one on behalf of traditional leaders, while the family of Sergeant Ajete laid a wreath on behalf of the fallen soldiers.
The West African Examination Council (WAEC) has released provisional results of candidates for the 2021 edition of the Basic Education Certificate Examination (BEC) for school candidates. The council says it will dispatch the results to the schools through the Metropolitan Municipal District Directors of Education.
The Council has posted the results online, and candidates who desire may access their results online at the Council's website www.waecgh.org. A statement signed by its head of legal department, Reverend Victor Brew, indicated that a total of 572,167 candidates made up of 287,730 males and 284,437 females entered for the examination. Among the registered candidates, 61 had visual impairment and 321 were identified with hearing impairment. The statement further adds that the total entry figure was 7.61% higher than the 2020 entry of 531,707. In all, 18,028 schools presented candidates for the examination, which was administered at 2,100 158 centers. With regards to examination malpractice, WAEC says the subject result of 138 candidates and entire result of 46 candidates have been cancelled. WAEC is also withholding the subject result of 148 candidates and the entire result of 109 candidates pending conclusion of investigations into various cases of alleged examination malpractice. Meanwhile, the Council is cautioning all stakeholders to be wary of fraudsters who promise to upgrade results for a fee, adding that WAEC results are secured and can be authenticated. Still in news, the chairman of the Council of State, Nana Otuo-Siriboe, has admonished the majority and minority caucuses in Parliament to reconcile their differences and build consensus. He said the country stands to lose a lot if both sides are adamant obstructing the work of Parliament. Nana Otuo-Siriboe chaired the steering committee of the council when they met the leadership of Majority Caucus on Monday. Sarah Ofori reports.
So recently, Ghana's parliament was regarded as a bastion of democracy on the continent because it had an enviable record from the 1st to the 7th parliament. The meeting by the Council of State comes on the heels of a similar interaction with the Minority Caucus of Parliament. The purpose of the meeting is to obtain their candid opinion on the unexpected developments in Parliament, which has generated tense atmosphere.
Since the inauguration of the 8th Parliament, we have been fed with not very palatable news from Parliament. There have been a lot of acrimony, there have been a lot of confusion, and sometimes even resulting to physical fight or physicals. And these do not reflect well on a parliament of the nature of our Ghana Parliament. This is the 8th since the 4th Republic, and all the 7 parliaments have performed with a lot of credit, and it is not proper that we should see that this enviable record which we have had would go down the drain. Parliament is an awesome institution, but unfortunately, it is becoming awful, and we have to arrest that situation, because the country stands to lose a lot if parliamentary work is impaired.
Quoting the words of the majority leader, Parliament is being torn into shreds.
We all have come to the realization that we can overcome this turbulence if we are sincere with ourselves and we don't reduce what is happening and what is going to happen subsequently to a mere talk shop. Parliament, which is a bastion of democracy, is being torn into shreds by our own actions and inactions. And I believe that at the end of the day, the reconciliation that we want to build will be achieved. It must be achieved.
Mr. Chairman Sabunsu, however, assured the Council that they are willing to listen to the Council of the Council. The Council continues its mediatory efforts by meeting with the Deputy Speakers and the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Alban Bagbin. Zero for GBC News, Accra.
Students of the University of Ghana were on Monday, February 28, saying loitering, hoping their lecturers will rescind their decision and come back to work. The university was expected to resume lectures today, but lecturers have not resumed when GBC News visited the campus on Monday.
We asked our office if the class was going to come on, but we were told that they had sent us a message as per the message from the registrar, and that they weren't so sure if the lecturers were coming. They had done their part by opening the auditorium for us to come and sit in class. So they couldn't give us any definite answer, but we should hang around.
There's no lecture even around. I've been in school for almost 2 months now, but I've not seen even a car of a lecture before. The car of a lecture, and it's really, really hurting. Yes, because of the transportations and also some energy we put into this. Though UG keeps us busy all the time, but it's really worrying. It's really worrying. You come today, they'll give another story. The next day, we are on campus doing nothing on campus.
I came here this morning hoping that lectures will start, but to my dismay, I found that lectures are not really starting. And it's kind of confusing here because once I went to the UGBS department, I saw some lectures in session, but other lecturers who are not really complying with the directive to come to class. So I don't know my left and right essentially. So it's really tough for me.
For me, I was personally disappointed because looking at law school, for instance, we have students who are preparing for their Makola exam. We have students in level 400 in other private institutions who are done with their first semester. I learned Gimba, for instance, they are done with their first semester and they'll be coming to resume the second semester in a couple of weeks. So just opposing that with University of Ghana School of Law students who are yet to even start their first semester, I really wonder the way forward. And I'm just praying and hoping that the government comes in talk with the lecturers so that this whole strike is called off.
They're just coping with the environment that they'll come back to teach us in class because you're feeling bad, you are spending much economically, financially. You are spending. We need to get what we are spending back as a profit because we need to study. We've paid fees, so it shouldn't run at our loss. It should be on our side. Yeah, so we are in school, so we deserve the best, and we want lectures to start.
Academic work at the Tamale campus of the University for Development Studies has started in earnest following the suspension of the 6-week-old industrial action embarked on by the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG. To the campus today saw some lectures going on with students expressing excitement about the development. Mutala Issa had more from Tamale.
Some schools here at the Tamale campus have already started lectures. We were in the lecture hall a while ago to see the School of Medicine already taking some of their students to some lectures. As you can see, campus is busier. There's a hustle and bustle going on, students from all over the place, as you can see, walking up and down, and they have been telling us that they are happy to be back to school and appealing to government to help make sure this is permanent. Let's take a listen to some of these students.
I'm so happy because we had an exam to write, and then because of the strike, we couldn't write it. So right now, we know that we'll finish what we started last year and then move on to something new. The government should listen to their demands and please, and then give them what they want.
Happy about they've suspended the strike. I'm happy we can continue classes, and then we have an exam to write on Friday, so we can write it and we'll be free. Our minds will be okay. Being at home is something else. We are not able to learn at home. Even though we learn, but it's not that effective and that stuff. So being in school is much better.
When we went home, we couldn't learn, and we are back. And 4th is just on Friday. So we don't know actually if we will be able to write the exams or not. So when you are learning, you don't feel comfortable because anytime at all, the strike can be called on again. So actually, we are not okay. Even though we are just pretending to be okay, we are not really okay.
We have also spoken to the Vice President of UTAG UDS Tamale Campus, Professor Mogri, and this is what he had to say.
We run a transfer system, and when you look at it, we are still having 12 weeks. And our previous timetable, it was a similar 12 weeks. Because of COVID, the academic calendar has actually been turned upside down, and we're trying to see how we'll be able to move back to the September reopening and things like that. So the previous calendar already had the number of weeks actually reduced to 12 weeks, and it is still maintaining the same. It is still the same 12 weeks that we have.
Across campus, expectations are very high. We are told that a new academic calendar is out already. And so the expectations among students is very, very high. They are preparing themselves. Other departments, including the Department of Education, the Faculty of Education, are preparing to start lectures anytime from now. However, this has not prevented some lecturers on campus to whisper into our ears that if government does not listen to them, they may likely go for another strike. Musala Isa for GBC News.
For allegedly taking videos of court proceedings, a freelance journalist, Mrs. Sakuta Menga Itigo, was picked up by operatives of the National Security at the Law Court Complex on Thursday, February 24, 2022. He was arrested on the orders of the Accra High Court after he allegedly took videos of court proceedings of the trial of some 5 Indian nationals alleged to have been involved in illegal gold trade.
Records of the proceedings of the case on Thursday, February 24, 2022 states that the presiding judge, Justice Lydia Osei-Mafo, became aware of the issue after some disturbances outside of the courtroom. The judge is said to have ordered operatives of the national security who came to the courtroom with the accused persons to detain Mr. Amengo Etego. He was then ordered to provide the national security operatives access to his phone by providing the password to the phone. Justice Osei-Mafo also ordered the suspects to be kept in the custody of the national security operatives pending the investigations till the next adjourned date. Mr. Sakut Amengo Etego is to reappear on March 14 alongside the accused Indian nationals in the substantive case. Meanwhile, a statement by the Ministry of National Security is urging the public to disregard a media publication that Mr. Amengo Etego was arrested to keep him quiet. It had been reported that Mr. Amengo Etego was arrested because he was following up on an alleged extortion case against some national security operatives. But according to the Ministry of National Security, the publication was false and should be disregarded. Statistics from the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit show that cases of gender-based violence, especially among women and girls, continue to go underreported and stigmatized. The few cases that are reported by victims who muster courage to do so mostly miss justice. In this report, GBC News' Ofori Wadako looks at the social responses of gender-based violence, from reporting to prosecution of perpetrators and care and support for victims.
I work with an 11-year-old girl who was into commercial sex work at Obrasport, behind Obrasport at Cycle. What happened? The stepfather defiled her. When she told the mother disbelieved her and she ran away. So there are many of these cases dotted around all the nooks and crannies of our nation.
In October 16, 2021, a 31-year-old woman was stabbed by her 40-year-old husband in front of her 6-year-old daughter after being battered by her husband at Nyantrenias in the Ashanti region of Ghana. On 30th March 2021, a 38-year-old man, Gali Gallo, battered his 34-year-old wife, Beatrice Logosu, to death. The suspect, Gali Gallo, was apprehended after he secretly sent the victim's body for preservation at the mortuary. A man allegedly beat his wedded wife to death at a Trimagogo in the Ashanti region 6 months into their marriage. A 45-year-old painter, John Arthur, in August 28, 2021, was arrested by the police after he allegedly defiled a 6-year-old girl at Sotium in the Greater Accra region. And in December 2021, a 42-year-old woman was beaten to pulp by her husband at Mahiam Galilea, Kaswa, following a misunderstanding between the couple. These are among cases of gender-based violence that happened before family, friends and neighbors identified previous signs of physical abuse meted out by the husbands of the victims. Although victims of such crimes find it difficult to report to authorities, statistics available at the Accra Regional Office of the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit DOVSU show that reported cases of abuse keep increasing by day.
most of these cases go unreported. They don't get to the limelight. And even where they have gotten to the limelight, families often get the wrong end of the stick.
Clinical psychologist and coordinator at the Coalition of Domestic Violence Legislation Ghana, Mr. Adolphe Ewukubekwin, further reiterated the need for accessibility of specialized support system in emergency settings, especially in deprived communities across the country. Mr. Adolphe Ewukubekwin said access to justice for victims of gender-based violence is crucial in responding to the needs of survivors and changing the narrative of gender-based violence.
I must admit that the police are doing tremendously well. We've moved and they are doing so well compared to yesteryears. But there are still bottlenecks, serious bottlenecks that do not offer opportunity for survivors and their family to have access to justice and to be rehabilitated well.
Statistics available at the Domestic Violence and Victims Support Unit (DOVSU) of the Ghana Police Service indicate that 1,047 girls were defiled, while 305 women were raped in 2020. However, the number of reported cases was less than the actual number of incidents that occurred. For GBC News, Ofeyuwa Dako reporting.
Before we go on break, from tomorrow, March 1, 2022, the Ghana Immigration Service will begin admitting Ghanaian passengers and dual nationals returning to Ghana on a valid Ghana card. They will go through some verification processes upon arrival. Seiko, what do you think about this?
Actually, this is good news. Let's see how it pans out. And so there's no need for me, say, from returning from London to Accra to present my passport at immigration. If I have a valid Ghana card, I can just present it. So let's see how the verification process will go like, and then we move on from there. You're still watching News Hour live on GBC News and GTV. We're taking a short break. We'll be back with the business segments. Please don't go away.
Good evening, welcome to Business, brought to you by Quick Credits and MTN. My name is Morris Ogbete. The Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund and IFC, a member of the World Bank Group, have collaborated to scale up the construction of green buildings in Ghana. The partnership aims at promoting the excellence in design for greater efficiencies known as EDGE certification to help unlock financial investment opportunities for green infrastructure.
GIF is actually looking at doing more of affordable housing and then student accommodation, right? And they are making sure that projects that are green are going to get these financing. And apart from just providing the direct financing, we guide these developers, providing technical assistance, which they may have paid for. I mean, they would have paid for to get the project to begin. But then IFC will provide these developers the technical assistance. We are also working with financial institutions, working with them to come up with products that are targeted at green. We are looking at having banks come up with green mortgages, coming up with green construction loans, working with these financial institutions to be able to launch green bonds.
We are trying to make sure that Ghana's infrastructure improves, and we're also trying to make sure all of our projects are climate friendly, are sustainable, and do not damage the environment. So that's the thinking behind the Ghana Infrastructure Fund, and that's what we're trying to do to promote this activity. As I mentioned, we're very happy to partner with IFC. IFC is a global institution, as you know, with very high standards and experience and knowledge in the sustainable area.
Also in business, the Ghana Union of Traders Association has suggested to government to be gradual in the implementation of the 30% benchmark value reversal in order to assess the impact on the economy. The suggestion comes after the government on Tuesday, February 22, settled on a 30% benchmark discount for all goods and 10% for vehicles. President Dr. Joseph Obeng says a gradual implementation of the new policy will enable policymakers to study its impact on the economy before passing it. Government initially granted a 50% tax waiver on certain goods being imported into the country, while imported vehicles enjoyed a 30% discount. Let's go to the interbank forex market, where the cedi is trading at 6 cedis 60 pesos to the US dollar. The pound sterling is going for 8 cedis 83 pesos, 7 cedis 42 pesos. That's brought to you by Quick Credits and MTN. The energy news is after this break. Stay with us.
Hello, good evening. You're welcome to the energy segment. My name is Mabel Anna. The call to revamp the Tema Oil refinery tour has intensified as crude oil prices keep soaring on the international market. Energy analysts assert that if the refinery has been operational, it would have helped in alleviating the plight of petroleum consumers in difficult period as is being experienced now. Let's go to power generation. Togo, Burkina Faso and Benin received 3.9364 gigawatt-hours of power from Ghana within the last 24 hours. Overall, national hydrothermal and solar generation was 62.1847 gigawatt-hours within the period. Here are some more details.
For hydro energy generated in the past 24 hours, Akosombo recorded 17.9370 gigawatt-hours, Bong 2.8840 gigawatt-hours, and Bui 5.3839 gigawatt-hours. Here's what functional thermal power producers contributed to the generation mix within the period. The three hydropower plants produced 26.2049 gigawatt-hours. Operational thermal power plants contributed 35.7870 gigawatt-hours, and total solar generation was 0.1928 gigawatt-hours. Total power generation was 62.1847 gigawatt-hours in the last 24 hours. For hydrology, the water level in the Akosombo Lake was 81.028 meters, below the maximum level of 84.73 meters, while the level in the Bui Dam was 174.610 meters, below the maximum elevation of 183 meters in the last 24 hours.
And that's how we wrap up on the energy segment. My name is Mabel Anna.
This segment of the news is brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco, an outdoor sensitization program for street food vendors and the general public has taken place at the Bolgatanga market in the Upper East region. It is to drum home the need for anyone who wishes to sell food in the open to go through the approved health and safety schemes of the Food and Drugs Authority before doing so.
The Food and Drugs Authority sent their message through a float on the principal streets of Bolgatanga. They made several stops at food joints and communicated the importance of permits as far as street food vending is concerned. The FDA cautioned that it would stop food vendors who fail to acquire permits from operating. Launched on the theme, No Street Food Vending Permit, No Business, the Upper East Regional Head of the FDA, Mr. Sebastian Hoto, said many people buy food from the streets daily. He said it is important to protect the health of the masses that eat food daily from the many joints on the streets. He warned that the FDA would withdraw the permit of any food vendor who, after being issued with a permit, refuses to adhere to the health and safety standards spelled out.
You will always be tempted to nibble on a local snack or another, and for all these reasons, the FDA found it prudent to officially regulate and license street food vendors so as to keep a closer eye on how they produce them for our consumption.
The Regional Coordinating Director, Chief Mohammed Azonko, also called on food vendors in the region to ensure that they operate around clean streets. He said selling unhygienic food on the streets has negative implications for tourism in the region. A representative from the Office of the Environmental Health and Sanitation, Mr. Mohammed Adam, called for intensified education in all parts of the region and urged the FDA to pay more attention to the kitchens of the vendors. Prizes were given to some food vendors for adhering to the basic hygiene and safety requirements.
The health segment of the news was brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco International News is next.